Set the World on Fire, Black Veil Bride's sophomore album which abandoned the band's original screamo and metalcore roots. This record uses a much more straightforward hard rock sound with some 90s kind of vibes and incredible guitar solos. That change was necessary for Black Veil to solidify themselves as more than just another emo screamo band in 2011. I really love this album, it's super fun to listen to and has a lot of great songs. Now without further ado, let's get into it. Enjoy. Might be an unpopular opinion, but Ritual is my least favorite song from Set the World on Fire. It's not bad, but it's one of the band's only tracks that doesn't jump out at me in any way. The melodies and everything are fine, but they never rise up as high as most of the songs in the album do. The inclusion of the electronic elements in the outro make the song feel a bit out of place, especially since most of the record is just guitar. Don't get me wrong, I think electronic sounds can be amazing in music. I made an hour-long video about Starset, but Black Veil Brides doesn't do it justice, at least in this track. On a positive note, Ritual's lyrics are pretty good. They paint this picture of unapologetic celebration of one's life. No matter what you've gone through and had to deal with, there are people there for you that want to help. That's all I have to say about Ritual though. It's not a bad song at all, but still one of Black Veil's worst pieces in my opinion. Next up is a pretty unknown bonus track. Smoke and Mirrors is fine. Pretty decent for sure, but again, most of the song just doesn't particularly impress me. The main thing that puts this track above Ritual is the bridge. Oddly, the guitar solo isn't even the reason why. The solo is pretty mid by Black Veil standards. The part of the bridge with vocals, though, is amazing. It accomplishes the epic energy that the chorus failed to. It's a shame that this section is so short, though. If it was longer, that would help the song a lot, but unfortunately we only get that short clip of greatness. As for the chorus, it's a bit too heavy on the vocal harmonies, and the melody itself doesn't feel quite right. It's kind of like how Heaven's Calling never felt fully complete. That's how I feel about Smoke and Mirrors, but to a lesser degree. I haven't listened to this song near as much as the rest of the album since it's not on Spotify, which is part of the reason why I don't have much to say about it. Also, I should add that there are probably some musical nuances that I didn't catch because the only audio I could find of the track is pretty low quality compared to what I can hear of the rest of the record. Youth and Whiskey is the closing track for Set the World on Fire, and I don't really know how to feel about that. I've seen some people that really like this song and some who really hate it, and I can understand both sides of the argument. The most common complaint I see is about the chorus and how the harmonies sound super weird and out of place, and I somewhat agree. I think the harmonies could have been toned down a bit and they do sound a bit weird, but despite all that, the guitar saves it. Youth and Whiskey is an odd case where I personally like it, but I would completely understand if other people hate it. To be fair, the different sections aren't the most cohesive, and parts of the song feel like a combo of bad cookie-cutter metalcore and other stuff. The lyrics are also a bit different from the general theme of the record. From what I could tell, this track is about picking up the things you learned through life and wanting to show people what you've seen. I saw a video ranking Black Veil Bride's albums, and one of the points the guy made in the video was that Ritual would have been a much more fitting closer because of its hopeful sound and lyrics, and I kind of agree with that. Meaning-wise, yeah, definitely Ritual would have been the better closer, but musically I like the way Youth and Whiskey does it. It feels like the epic finale to an epic album. The only complaint that I have is the final seconds of the song are a bit anticlimactic, but it's not that big of a deal. My favorite part of Youth and Whiskey is the bridge. Again, the mini breakdown feels a little out of place, but I'm not complaining since we got some screaming and sick drumming. The guitar solo is pretty decent, nothing insane, but it works. Overall, I do like Youth and Whiskey. It has some great guitar and drum work despite its flaws. Next is The Legacy. I was actually very indifferent towards Legacy for a long time for some reason. I remember thinking at the time that the chorus was mid, therefore the whole song is mid, but that's just not true. I actually kind of enjoy the chorus now, and the whole song for that matter. Most of this track is very solid, with addicting riffs that make you want to get up and boogie. I like how the chorus slows everything down a bit from the verses. The verses feel like some adventure. Just look at the first lyrics. Racing faster, escape disaster. The Legacy has this theme of leaving your own legacy no matter who tries to stop you. Obviously, it's in the name. One of my favorite lines is, "We'll change the world with these guitars." It's just super cool, and well, they kept that promise for sure. The musical structure of the song follows its lyrics. Like I said, the verses feel like you're on the run from those who are trying to stop you. The chorus is the confident promise of victory, and the bridge is a sort of climax or battle with your adversary. Now obviously I can't talk about The Legacy without going on a rant about the bridge. The bridge is one of my favorite parts of the whole album, featuring some awesome screaming and 2 guitar solos, in a way. If you've seen any of my Linkin Park videos, unlikely, then you'll know that I love screaming. Black Veil, of course, started out as a borderline screamo band with Stitch, but over time started to leave it out of their rotation more and more. I'm pretty sure there was literally no screaming in Veil if memory serves. Even in this album, there's not a lot of screaming, with only The Legacy, Youth and Whiskey, Savior, and kind of New Religion featuring any, I think. And I'm not saying that every song has to have screaming. I actually think that would be a bad thing. But when only a few songs use it, those songs become more sacred. And The Legacy has some of the best screaming on the album, behind only Savior, of course. 20 seconds or so of screaming in the bridge turn the legacy from a decent track to a good one, emphasizing that epic adventurous energy the song is going for. Then after that is the first of two guitar solos, I think. I guess it's really just one long guitar solo, but it sounds like two, so I'm going with that. There's an entire minute in the middle of the song that's nothing but guitar and drums, which is super nice. I've yapped long enough though, let's send it into number 8. Rebel Love Song is a track that has grown on me a bit over time. Like with the Legacy, I was originally pretty neutral towards it, but I've come to enjoy it a lot more in recent months. Unlike the Legacy though, Rebel Love Song doesn't have any screaming, instead of focusing on the guitar and vocals. My favorite thing about this track is definitely the guitar, especially in the chorus where it complements the vocals so well. This album is super great when it comes to background guitar, and Rebel Love Song is one of the best examples of that. Another good thing about the song is that the quality is super consistent. There are no bad parts and every section has that signature Black Veil Brides energy. That does mean, however, that no parts really stand out. I guess I could say the chorus is the best part of the track, but to be honest, the whole runtime is good. It's great when a song has consistent quality, but when it comes down to the peak, other songs with the same overall quality but less consistency tend to take the cake. And that's kind of what happened with this next entry on my list. The quality is the same overall, but the next track's peak is much higher. So just know that I still really like Rebel Love Song, but the next one has that best peak. Yup, Savior has one of the best parts of the entire album. Of course, I'm talking about the ending. I'll get to that in a second though. Savior is the sad song for Set the World on Fire, and it was definitely the band's best ballad up to this point. It's so cool that Andy basically used this as a message to the fans saying that Black Veil Brides will always be there for them in times of need. This track is probably one of Black Veil's best executions of combining softer acoustic guitar with electric guitar. The guitar harmonies, while being slower, still have that essential BVB energy and they sound amazing. Jinx also knocked it out of the park with the violin, without a doubt some of his best work in that department. Another unique thing about Savior is the violin solo, with some incredible violin harmonies that build up to the last chorus perfectly. CC was also incredible in this one. He just controls the intensity of the beat so well throughout the whole track, except for the part where there are no drums, obviously. The way the drums start at the beginning of the second verse, combined with that short guitar harmony, so good. And you know I can't talk about Savior without mentioning the ending. The slow progression of the beat for the first 4 minutes only to skyrocket into that insane ending is just incredible. I feel like the bridge briefly hinted at this part. Tell me if I'm crazy, but some of the notes in the violin solo seem to foreshadow to something darker. Now of course the last chorus has a bit more going on instrumentally than the previous ones, which is pretty standard. But I just love the way it builds up to the part with "When I hear your cries, praying for life," not screaming. At that point, the violin and drums take things up a notch, preparing the listener for what can only be described as the most well-placed screaming in Black Veil Bride's entire discography. Even those first scream on the words, "cries, praying for life," are just the perfect location in the song. After that, the shift from hopeful, savior-type atmosphere into the much more sinister atmosphere happens. The violin seamlessly fades away, leave room for the heavy guitars, and Andy's screaming continues. I'm so obsessed with this part of the song, it's very hard to shift between polar opposite moods so flawlessly. Last thing, you may have noticed that the asterisk on the rating for Savior a minute ago, and that basically means that at the right time, the song can make a huge leap in quality. For example, in this case, the song would hit even harder if you're lonely or just sad in general. I love Savior, I want to put it higher on the list, but just keep in mind that it could probably be the number 1 or number 2 at its full potential. God Bless You is one of the most straight-up hard-rocking tracks on this record. Lyrically, it's one of my favorites as well. A lot of this album lyrically can get a bit samey after a while, but God Bless You focuses more on a relationship aspect between two people, where the singer is basically saying, "You hurt me, left me with a love I can't get rid of, but I'm gonna try to survive without you, so God bless you." I especially like the emphasis on the "God bless you" lyrics. I feel like a lot of songs are 100% against the other person, like the singer just wants the person to suffer for their sins. But in this track, the singer is seemingly wishing the best for their ex-lover or friend, and if not that, then at least not having any ill wishes. I also like the larger emphasis on the vocals, especially in the chorus. We all know that Black Veil Brides are a pretty guitar-centric band in general, and while I love that about them, it can be nice to get some songs that are more vocal-centered. And that's what God Bless You accomplishes, with its larger-than-life chorus that has insane vocal harmonies. The guitar is still very good, however. It doesn't jump out as much, of course, but it's still essential. The opening riff is admittedly not the most original, but it gets the job done. Probably my favorite guitar part is the pre-chorus. I don't know why, but the guitar work there is just super satisfying to me, and that's only amplified in the second pre-chorus, which also features some subtle screaming. I know I've been pretty vocal about how much I love the bridges in a lot of these songs, but God Bless You, for me at least, gets its points from the chorus. The bridge is fine, I guess. It's just a decent guitar solo, but the chorus makes its presence known with, like I said, amazing vocal harmonies, but also CC's slamming drums. The final chorus is definitely my favorite part of the song. The second half of it with slight note changes is just really nice. The outro is also solid. If you listen really hard, you can hear someone whispering "So God Bless You" behind Annie's lead vocals, which I literally just noticed while writing this. But anyways, God Bless You is just a really nice sounding song. Next up is New Religion. I'm gonna have to skip over some things about this track because I have family that watch my videos, so sorry about that. Being the opening track, New Religion had to bring probably the most polarizing message to the table, which, I mean, if you know, you know. Musically though, it's much more guitar and drum focused than God Bless You. The more frenetic and high-pitched guitars and melodies combined with CC's fast-paced drums makes for a slightly panicky atmosphere which fits the lyrics. I like New Religion's placement at the beginning of the album because it feels like the rebels' initial call to arms, pun intended. At this point, I like to think they're under fire for whatever reason, and they're building up their forces, which is why the song sounds more dangerous and panicked. I know Set the World on Fire isn't exactly a concept album, but the reoccurring themes give it at least some type of storyline for the listener to imagine for themselves. New Religion is also one of, I believe, only 4 tracks on this record with real screaming in them. And even then, it barely qualifies as there's a total of about 2 seconds of it, but to be honest, I don't care how little screaming there is, it still helps give the song an angrier feel. Andy's vocals in general are pretty solid here. Like I've said with a bunch of these tracks, it's nothing special, but you know it works. As for the instrumentals, they're just really solid. Like I said a minute ago, CC's drums do wonders for creating the atmosphere, and also just some of the best drumming on the record. The guitars are also some of the best on the album. The solo in the bridge is infinitely better than the one in God Bless You, and it's also like twice the length, which helps. The guitar riff in the chorus is really nice, and really perfects that frenetic atmosphere the song is going for. Overall, New Religion is just super solid. It sounds really good, and it's an essential piece of Set the World on Fire. This may be a surprise, but at number 4 I have Die For You. I literally never see anyone talking about this track. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but still, feels like one of the only songs that doesn't get any recognition from the community. The main thing that puts Die For You above the previous entries for me is the chorus, which is extremely catchy. The guitar riff in the chorus also fits perfectly with the vocal melodies and everything else. The vocal harmonies are top-notch as well. They really add to that larger-than-life atmosphere the chorus has. It's hard to explain in words, but if you know the song, I think you'll get what I'm saying. The bridge is great too. It's different than the last few entries in that it both starts and ends with vocals, and has a guitar solo in the middle. I think the structure of the bridge helps it reach its full potential. It starts off, of course, with some vocals that feel somewhat like a continuation of the chorus, and then a guitar solo which calms the atmosphere down a bit. I feel like usually guitar solos make a song more energetic, but in this case I like that it does the opposite because of the final section of the bridge. And that is the part where Andy's repeating the lyrics from the chorus, but without all the instrumentals behind him, except for some violin, which is a nice touch. That method of leading back into a final chorus is great for building suspense, and that holds true in Die For You. The final chorus is super epic, and the extra repetition at the end is nice. CC's drumming throughout the whole song is of course good. The drums are a bit less emphasized, but I actually think that's better in this case because it leaves more room for the guitars and vocals. The only real downside of this song is that the lyrics are extremely basic. I know Black Veil gets a lot of hate for having basic lyrics. I personally don't think it's that much of an issue, but Die For You admittedly is super basic in that regard. That doesn't matter a ton to me though, as it is still a very good song and number 4 on this list. Love Isn't Always Fair is one of Black Veil Bride's most guitar-heavy songs ever. I checked and literally over 40% of the runtime is just guitar. But man, the boys made every second count, putting together some insane riffs, masterful shredding, and a 40-plus second guitar solo. I know a lot of the instrumentals for this album were built off of stuff the band members wrote in previous bands, but still, this track has the best combination of guitar parts in all of Set the World on Fire. Aside from the guitar though, Love Isn't Fair has... no, just guitar. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. Obviously there's more to the song than just guitar, but if I'm being honest, nothing else really stands out a ton. Vocally, the song's fine. The harmonies can be a bit iffy at times, but overall not bad. CC's drums are actually really good too, but they're much harder to notice behind the wall of guitars. Even lyrically, this track is famous for being way too narrative focused, even Andy admitted it. While the tunnel vision of the lyrics can make it difficult for listeners to relate, I argue that if you ignore a few of the more specific lyrics, you could use this song for more than just one meaning. I know I spent some time kind of dogging on Love Isn't Always Fair, but I'm trying to get to why it's number 3 on my list. Now, of course, I mentioned this earlier, but the guitar sections are the best of the entire record. The guitar riffs and melodies are the heart and soul of the track, and they turn Love Isn't Always Fair from a decent song to a great one. To start, the first 45 seconds of runtime are just guitar. The riffs here are, as you can probably guess, incredible. Later on in the song, I enjoy the short 5-second guitar solos after each chorus. They help remind the listener the true focus of the sound, and maybe even hint at what's to come in the bridge. Convenient segue into the bridge. It starts off with a vocal section which is pretty forgettable, but that's completely redeemed by the 40-second long guitar solo that follows. This is undoubtedly one of, if not the best solo on the album. It's super fun to whistle and it makes my brain happy. A lot of people hate on Black Veil Brides for being cringy and whatnot, and while I can't exactly blame them, even they have to admit that this band has some crazy musical talent. After that awesome solo is the final chorus, which all things considered is pretty good. Not as good as, say, Die For You or God Bless You, but it works. My favorite part of the song, surprisingly, is the outro. I would have thought it would be the guitar solo, but nope. The outro was even better in my opinion. I'm so glad that one of the guys found this riff, because it seamlessly fits with the song and finishes it off in a way that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. If I had to define Love Isn't Always Fair in one word, it would be shred, and that alone is enough to get it to the number 3 spot on my list. Fallen Angels is by far the most popular song from Set the World on Fire. It got its own silly yet awesome music video that features Ashley crashing down to earth on a motorcycle, which is just so cool. Aside from that, Fallen Angels is just a really great song. I couldn't make up my mind on how to rate it, so I just went with an 8.75 out of 10. I try to stay out of the .25s, but in some cases there must be exceptions. Similar to Rebel Love Song, this track is centered around guitars and vocals. Both areas get a serious upgrade, however, with the vocal melodies and gang vocals being probably the best on the album, as well as some super addicting riffs that get stuck in your head for hours. Fallen Angels is also the most catchy track on this record. I'd even argue their whole career up to this point. While the lyrics are, again, pretty basic, that works perfectly for the target audience, namely edgy teenagers. This song makes me feel like I'm not like the other girls, and that would be correct because I'm a dude. The track starts with that iconic scream, shout, we are the Fallen Angels line, a great example of well-used gang vocals. The verses are the best on the album too. They have the perfect balance of grittiness and catchiness that's further complemented by that awesome guitar riff. The backing vocals in the pre-chorus are a nice touch as well. They create a build-up aspect that carries into, you guessed it, the chorus. Now the chorus is of course extremely iconic. I know I've used this word every 5 seconds, but it's so catchy. The last chorus is my favorite part of the song, which I'll get to in a minute. It's interesting how these high-ranked tracks seems to be generally more chorus-focused rather than bridge. Most of the time, my favorite songs are favorites mainly because of their bridges. Oddly, my top 4 in this video get most of their greatness from their choruses. That's not to take away from the bridge, however. The bridge features a very nice guitar solo that, in my opinion, is one of the better ones on the record. I like the more melodic approach to go along with the vibe of the song. After that is the transition back into the chorus, which is a repeat of that iconic intro. Man, I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said about the last chorus. It just sounds so amazing. The guitars, drums, vocals, harmonies, gang vocals, just everything comes together to create this masterpiece. And of course, I can't forget the climactic outro that brings the whole song together for an epic final stand. I really love Fallen Angels. It's an absolute staple of Black Veil Brides music, and I'm glad it's brought so many fans into the community. Music video is super funny. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but my number 1 spot goes to the title track, Set the World on Fire. This has always been my favorite off the record. Something about the way all the different elements come together to create the energy really pleases my ears. To start, immediately when the track begins, CC comes in with his best drum riff on the album. Drum riff? I don't know the word, but I think you get what I mean. The following guitar riff is very solid as well. I don't know why, but I feel like if you had to sum up this entire album in one riff, it would be this one. If this album were a story, I would love this track's placement right after New Religion, because it's like the actual fight after the forces gathered in the opener. The atmosphere in general is absolutely perfect for this fight scene kind of story. The 90s-esque vocal harmonies bring a sort of nostalgic feeling to the song, as if this were something my mom would listen to. I won't spend much time on the lyrics since they're pretty basic, but one part jumps out to me is the second half of the last chorus. Proud in all you are, showing every scar as your badge of honor, when you can't take any more of what they're living for, set the world on fire. Nothing incredible lyrically, but for some reason that one part really stands out to me. Set the World on Fire's verses are pretty alright. All things considered, they're about the same as most of the album, but that's not a problem at all when you hear what comes after. The chorus is without a doubt my favorite part of the whole record, other than sometimes the ending of Savior. All the best aspects of other choruses fuse together in this one. The epicness of God Bless You and Die For You, the guitar mastery of Fallen Angels and the Rebel Love Song, and the unapologeticness of New Religion. If we're talking about specifics, what's really at the core of this chorus are the vocals and guitar. While this is far from Andy's smoothest vocal performance, that's to be expected with this somewhat unorthodox melody. I actually think the slightly less polished sounding vocals added the atmosphere, especially when combined with the epic harmonies. The real kicker though, the guitar. The riff in the chorus is the perfect complement to the vocals. Also, CC has one of his most memorable choruses here. The drums get kind of drowned out amidst all the other stuff, but the parts you can hear are great for keeping the energy up. Moving on from the chorus for now, let's talk about the bridge. So the bridge starts off with a vocal section that's honestly pretty forgettable, though I will say the scream at the end of this part is pretty nice. Set the World on Fire's guitar solo is another one of the better ones on the record. Still not as good as Love Isn't Always Fair, but I'd definitely say top 3 solo. Immediately out of the solo is the final chorus, my favorite part of the song. I love the extra rendition of the chorus with the new lyrics, like I mentioned earlier. The slow build-up throughout the whole track leading up to this point is executed amazingly, and that is more than enough to solidify Set the World on Fire as my personal favorite track on this album. That was my ranking of Black Veil Bride's Set the World on Fire. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm in a close race with my cousin to 100 subscribers. Also, make sure to look out for future rock music content on this channel. This is the second in a series of 9 Black Veil Brides related videos on this channel that I plan to be uploading every week. The next video is going to be one of my biggest projects yet, so definitely stay tuned for that next weekend. With that said, thank you so much for watching and have a nice day, guys.